That's me, Justin Wyllie, the man, the myth, the legend. It's taken about a year, I guess, to get me wrangled up onto the podium. I've been building this presentation and seeing exactly what you guys want to hear. So I've been told, I've been given strict instructions here to make it informative and educational, inspiring and motivational, intriguing yet relatable. If I could, keep it current, but have a little bit of nostalgia in it. But most importantly, I was told to keep it punctual.
A little extra time today because
I've noticed I also have 45 minutes, so I guess I can just, maybe I can tell some of the funny stories that I've come across, privacy issues related, but yeah, so the early days of Justin Wyllie, oh my goodness. When I was 19, I headed up to UNBC. I was studying business administration. When I first got there, it sort of started my semi-political career. I ran for residence council. So we had about 800 students that were living in residence up in Prince George. Myself and my friend Gurkha Paul Baines ran as president and vice president. Gurkha Paul had a turban that he wore, a ceremonial turban. And I had pink hair at the time, so I'm not sure if everyone remembers or knows the cartoon Pinky and the Brain, but we ran as Pinky and the Brain, and I think we won by about 15 votes, actually. It was pretty tight, but we ran around and canvassed everybody, and we told them we would throw the better parties. So part of the responsibility that when we were on Res Council was putting out a lot of educational stuff in residence. As you can imagine, when you get a bunch of 18-year-old, 19-year-old to 21, 22-year-olds, 800 of them living in a building together in Prince George, which in 1999 was not the economic boomtown that it is today. Their cultural scene was still up and coming as well. I know Herb spent some time, a lot of...
You don't know how hard it was to build that university.
Yeah. Well, I was there in its second year. It was a beautiful building, I must say. But yeah, it was cold in Prince George. I was a Vancouver boy. I hadn't really been much out of Vancouver as far as around BC, but I think my first winter at -40, I would walk across the street to the school and my eyelashes would freeze. Nose hairs. Those were on the days we went to school and didn't just play James Bond GoldenEye on our N64 all day, but we had good times. Some of the social programs that we ran there too, there was a lot of sex education going on. Again, when you get 800 people living in a building, we had to have a campaign for degrees, not disease. That was our big thing that we were spreading. There was different envelope programs where you could put under the door and get refills of your condoms and stuff. Yeah, good times up in Prince George. So I did finish up my year there and realized maybe Prince George wasn't for me, and decided to continue my education down at Capilano University in North Vancouver. So it did take me about 5 years to finish a 2-year diploma program. I like to really pour my heart and soul into it. A lot of people said, oh, you're going to go for your degree? I said, no, I can't really spend 10 years getting a business administration degree. I probably should be a doctor by then. But luckily, at the end of my 5 years, I did join UBC's Sauder School of Business and took my real estate license. So my mom at the time had been working in real estate for probably about 15 years at that point. So she saw my natural skill in marketing and negotiations and whatnot, and brought me into real estate with her. So we did work together for 16 years down in Vancouver, and then I moved up here, and she missed me so bad she moved up a year later and joined me. Where did you learn that? I get that question a lot. For those of you who don't know, and I had a lot of fun doing this, I've actually worked 42 jobs in my lifetime. I've only been fired from 2, so I think that's a pretty good stat. But yeah, I was just addicted to jobs. I started pretty young, actually. My dad owned a Super Value. I was facing shelves at probably the age of 9. And working stuff in the grocery department, and then went up onto various other fun jobs. Movie theater when I was young, that was one of my favorites. I met a lot of lifetime friends, so I mean, if anyone has grandchildren that are out there looking for jobs or children, I would always recommend a movie theater. It was a pretty awesome job. Camp counselor, I donated that wasn't really work I donated, but 18 different weeks at outdoor school in North Vancouver. Runs an outdoor school in Brackendale near Squamish. And for those weeks we would teach kids, grade 6 and kindergarten kids, different programs in the outdoors with salmon and eagles and orienteering and canoeing and all that fun stuff. So other fun ones there. I did get a lot into food and beverage as well. So when I was about 19, 20, I worked up at Grouse Mountain. Huge, obviously, big place, popular in Vancouver for tourists and whatnot. We put on some major events up there as far as World Cup mountain biking, a bunch of Canada Day ones. There was one Canada Day event where we had Nickelback and the Black Eyed Peas were playing. I think they expected about 3,000 people to show up, and we had about 15,000 people that showed up that day. They were hiking up the Grouse Grind, they were coming up the top of Mountain Highway from Lynn Valley, and all of a sudden we got 15,000 people on the mountain with all heavily intoxicated with a gondola that only gets people down at about 100 a time. If that. So I've never been on that gondola when it was running on level 8 out of 10. Usually they run it around 4. We were catching air on the towers, like it was insane. But as far as just, throughout life, learning customer service stuff, and I really do like the boots on the ground event days and organizing those kind of big events. So I did work on the mountain crew as well up at Grouse until about October came, and it started to get cold and rainy and whatnot, and I realized I don't want to be outside for the winter, so went inside. Also worked at Grouse Mountain, Westwood Plateau golf course in the restaurant. I've worked many jobs in restaurants, from server, bartender, assistant manager. I've worked all the jobs in the kitchen too, so now I can sell you a house, cook you a dinner, and landscape your yard. Cultus Lake Parks crew, I worked on just the parks crew, going around maintaining all the area up at Cultus Lake for a guy that was out on a back injury for about a year. Owned a landscaping company as well. That really went well with real estate. I would do a lot of curb appeal packages for realtors on my own listings. I'd look at someone's yard and I'm like, I can just bust that off in 3 hours or 2 hours or whatever and spruce it all up. So lots of power washing and trimming and stuff. Tiling and hardwood floor, I did that for long enough to realize I don't want to do tiling and hardwood floor for the rest of my life, but long enough to learn the skill. So I can do backsplashes. I actually did a client's backsplash about a month ago. I offered and they took me up on it. Oh, that'd be fun. I haven't done one in a while. 2 days later. Canada Post, I was a postie for about a year or two before I moved up from Vancouver. Like, work from 7 in the morning, finish my route by 1, go to work at the restaurant from 1 till 6, and then real estate stuff in the evening and weekends and whatever. So, always busy. And like I said, 20 years in real estate as well. What has changed in 20 years in real estate? Well, what hasn't changed, I would say, in 20 years? I was even chatting with my mom there about what's changed, maybe. I was finding out like what's changed in the 35 years or 36 years that she's been a realtor, and remembering our early days together. I mean, just as some of the stuff here, like websites and stuff were pretty much almost non-existent when we first started. Very, very basic stuff. We actually designed, I had this great idea for this website. It was, when you booted it up, it was a house. And if you logged on in the morning, it was daytime. And if you logged on at night, it was nighttime. And if you logged on in the summer, all the trees were in bloom. In winter, it was snowing and Christmas lights on the house and whatever. It was pretty cool. Took a lot of time and money to develop it. You click on the office, you would go into the office. This was all done in Flash. You'd be at a desk, you could click on the Rolodex and see all the referred contacts. You could look on market charts on the wall in the office, all that stuff. You go into the living room, it was like the community stuff. So there was community boards about people that wanted to buy and sell stuff and just different events. And really cool. I had amazing visions of where this was gonna go. And then all of a sudden everyone starts using smartphones, doing 90+% of their internet surfing on smartphones, and Flash doesn't work on smartphones. So the whole thing was thrown in the garbage. After some years, for sure. So just talking about technology and stuff as well. A lot of the business now, a lot of the online stuff, it's all about lead capture. Sorry, let me skip ahead here. If anyone's heard of drip drip emails, funnels, landing pages, squeeze pages, lead capture stuff. AI now is coming into the market in a huge way. But yeah, it's almost an overwhelming thing. I'm 43 now. I wish I could just stop learning technology-wise. I sort of did a little bit about for the last 5 years, and then now I'm like, no, there's no way I can stop. I'm gonna have about 15, 20 years left of advancing things before I can give up on new apps and phones and computers and stuff.
Oh, you're trying to give up then.
No, well, eventually I'd like to just be at a lake and sit there and not really care about it. But yes, it is all about lead capture, and when people come on your website now, like instantly I get a hit on my phone that says someone's looking at these houses and they have to register obviously to look at properties now, and then you phone that person and they yell at you like every other person yells at you, because every realtor has this function now that we're all more or less utilizing. So she says, how many realtors do I have to tell to go whatever in a week? I said, well, stop bouncing around to 8 different realtors' websites and just stay on mine. And then, or people, I have a realtor. Okay, well, why aren't you using their website? It's okay. But even AI recently, like, it's crazy. I haven't really fully dove into what AI can do, and I mean, right now it could build all my content for my social media posts and everything for a year, probably in half an hour's time. Some of this chat GPT and stuff that they have, you could literally put in, create the ideal customer persona for a buyer in Kelowna, and it will pound out who's buying houses in Kelowna, and then you could say, write me 5 ads to attract those types of buyers and stuff, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's got all your content. I could make it write a presentation. I should have made it write this presentation, actually. That would be good. So get video so that my face and my likeness would be speaking on the video, but it's not me. That's all this deep fake stuff that's going on. So really massively changing tools. Like, you're going to see it a lot, I think, in a lot of different industries. But just the time it saves and the stress, because I mean, I've got here, in an average day, a realtor could be in charge of their sales and marketing, client care, be your own accountant, IT, economist, psychologist, financial advisor, marriage counselor, building inspector, interior designer, engineer. Maybe that's why I like this job, is it takes like 18 different jobs and puts it all together in one. You don't get to do all those jobs every day, but marriage counselor, I only do that once in a while. I am known to be texting someone. There was one client, she was leaving her husband in the Lower Mainland and wanted to buy a place up here, but he didn't know. I'm like, that's gonna get ugly. But she would message me at midnight and whatever and ask me, oh, what do I do now? And I'm like, oh, you should talk to a lawyer and get a separation draft it up. I'm like, oh, he owns the house and his brother and me. I'm like, yeah, this sounds really messy. You need this in writing. But it is, I mean, when you deal with people, and especially in real estate, it is usually the biggest investment and purchase that someone's going to make in their lifetime. So with that goes a lot of stress and anxiety. Not always, but it's funny, even the smoothest deals, sometimes they seem so smooth until you're trying to sign a subject removal form or something, and then all the nerves and anxiety come out for a buyer. So legislation changes as well. We're always having to learn about new changes to the industry, disclosures. I think a contract and full package when I first started was about 8 pages long. Now I think we're up to almost 40 pages. So tons of stuff about privacy and disclosure and remuneration and commissions being earned and that all being disclosed. Obviously we had all the money laundering stuff that was going on, especially down in Vancouver. So a ton of anti-money laundering forms that we have to fill out with bank account information and all that stuff. And then I actually have to check a box whether I think this client is a likely terrorist threat. I usually fill out that form when I'm at home by myself. I haven't had to check off any high risk, but it's funny that they kind of make us the frontline enforcers for that kind of stuff. Other stuff too, taxes. I mean, we've seen property transfer tax come in since I've been in real estate, which back in the day, I mean, it's still 1% of the first 200,000 and 2% on the balance. But that's become significant. I mean, when they first put this in, I think the average house in Vancouver when I was down there was maybe like $450. We were selling some stuff in the Tri-Cities for around 350, 400, maybe stuff in North Van 600, 700, but still, if you look at, you know, that tax that was paid on those purchase prices versus now, we're looking at average sales prices, I mean, in the Okanagan here, around 1.1, around $1 million. That's pretty significant tax. So there are breaks for first-time buyers. If you've never been on title for a property anywhere in the world before, you can save the property transfer tax on a purchase under $525,000, which again, there could be some fluctuation in that, knowing that, you know, $525,000, when they first came up with the program, might get a first-time buyer a pretty significant property. Not that it's meant for you to go buy a 2-story home or anything like that, but even the average prices of condos now in Kelowna are around that 525 mark. So, yeah. Information, and just again, how people get it. Everybody's online. Obviously, I think 95% of people, when they're looking for a house, they're going to go online on realtor.ca or any of these other websites and kind of cruising around. The foreign buyers ban as well that we currently have on. I mean, when you look at the numbers, it wasn't a huge percentage of foreign buyers that were buying property. I think it was only about 3% in Vancouver. And up here, kind of similar, but again, I know they're trying to tighten up the market, and there was a lot of uproar or whatever about, you know, making things affordable for Canadians and whatnot. There's still a ton of loopholes as far as foreign buyer ban. If they're moving here for work or work permits or family, there's about 4 or 5 different loopholes where they can still buy, but not for investment so much. So the speculation tax as well that was brought in is now, I believe, 1% of assessed value. So if you just have a property that's sitting vacant, that has started in Vancouver, come up around Kelowna as well. Lake Country now actually has it in place. So I know I have a foreign buyer who he's dual citizen, but he's Canadian American, and he doesn't want to pay that 20% tax to buy even in Lake Country when he was looking there. So now we're looking out towards Bergen. So as you go north of Lake Country, it doesn't exist. What else? Communities. Communities have changed like crazy. I mean, obviously we're looking at a lot of multifamily stuff now. Again, just based on affordability and growth. We just had a presentation this morning from one of the Okanagan, what was it, Okanagan Economic Development Committee or something. And Kelowna is the #1 fastest growing city in BC. I think actually in Canada, by quite a bit. I think we're about 14% per year. The next closest is around 7 or 8%. So we are growing like crazy. All the development, I know we were talking maybe a couple months ago about the amount of cranes that are going in around Kelowna. I think Dave Cullen had told us there's going to be 41 cranes. So, I mean, you can see kind of where this is going for sure. And a lot of that growth is multifamily. So they also showed a chart this morning about building starts. They are quite low right now. Like normally it would be about 3,000. We actually only had about 1,800 building starts going, and a majority of those are multifamily. So average price on a new build home right now is around 1.4, which again, when you're trying to attract, our employment rate was very low, 2.7, which is, you know, 5% is kind of a Canadian average of where you're doing good. 2.7 is like everyone's got a job. But to make it attractive to get more people and stuff, obviously the affordability of housing is a big concern. So the multifamily stuff is getting built, the condos are getting built. The new legislation as well coming out that's going to allow for fourplexes on single family lots is going to be really interesting to see how we kind of navigate through that. There hasn't been a lot of details as far as what lots are going to qualify for this, but they're saying any single family house can have a legal suite. Again, there's going to be probably hurdles about permits and making sure that it's all done correctly. But every home will be allowed to have a legal suite. So again, when you look at affordability, someone my age, like you have to play the property ladder game now. Like you're not going out and buying your first time house for, well, right now for $1 million. You know, I bought a 1-bedroom condo. I moved up to a 2-bedroom condo. Sold that, moved back into mom's house. That's always a good stage, you know, midlife, moved back into mom's. and then you get the house with the suite, and then, you know, eventually you can take over the whole house. So again, with rental rates, you can get anywhere from 15, 18, 2,000, 2,200. I have a client right now, she's pulling 2,300 a month for a 2-bedroom basement suite that is maybe 1,200 square feet. Maybe. 2 minutes. I thought I had 45 minutes. Talked about the market. I have stats and stuff on there. I mean, basically prices were going like crazy with COVID. Our supplies were down and everybody wanted to move to the Oakland. The only time prices sort of took a dip, the 5-year rates started to sort of come up a little bit in 2021, which again caused a massive spike. And then as the rates, obviously interest rates are going up, prices are going down. Really, why am I so rushed?
No, you can take another 4 minutes.
Oh.
4?
I'm just skimming through all the things you guys want to hear about. But anyways, right now we're in a very balanced market. So time on the market is about 55 days. We've got 7 months of inventory. Inventory is going up. Sales numbers are down about, no, not 50%, 30%-ish. They're on the thing there. From the volume of sales that we had last year. But we see, again, I saw it in Vancouver when the Olympics were there. Once a city is a worldwide known city, which Kelowna is, CNN has been advertising it as one of the best places to vacation. Quality of life here, we all know the quality of life that we get here. So it's on the radar. We saw it in Vancouver with the Olympics and stuff. Kelowna is now officially on the radar to the world. So even with Project Literacy, they were saying our population in Kelowna was made up of 22% or 20% immigrant population. So it's not just Canadians that are moving here either, it's a worldwide market for sure. Why do I do it? I love nervous breakdowns. Like working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. But it does allow me to deal with people again at their highest kind of stress level. And I like to sort of just ease that process for them. Every day is different. I've walked into showings at 9 o'clock in the morning with a naked guy in the kitchen. He's like, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "I don't know, I wish your house had a hallway before I got to the kitchen. I don't need to see this." He's like, "I told the realtor no showing." I'm like, "Well, they confirmed it, so here I am. I've seen too much and I'm gonna go." I've done other showings where we're in the bedroom or we're looking around and all of a sudden I kind of see this lump in the bed kind of move. And I guess Grandpa isn't so mobile, so when we had the showing, they just put a blanket over him on the bed and told him, "Don't move." So, good thing we weren't talking too much smack about the house and whatnot, but it is always fun. I've had other first-time buyers, you know, when the market was absolutely crazy in 2021, I wrote 15 offers for one couple. We just kept losing and losing and losing in multiple offers. They had a top that they were qualified for. We would go in and just throw the top price every time and just kind of get inched out. So after working with them for about 8 months to a year, we finally got a place out in Vernon. They are so happy. It was actually right at the deadline too. Their rate hold was about to expire, and with interest rates going up, they wouldn't have qualified for what they had to buy anymore. So it's amazing, like when I go to their house and see them, they've done a bunch of rentals and all that. I'm really happy. So ultimately, at the end of the day, that's why I do it. I like putting smiles back on people's faces when they're in stressed and crazy situations. And yeah, every day is a little bit different. Bring on the questions.
Do you have any ideas of what should be done to make accommodation affordable, like the governments or like maybe the city could help, or give us some ideas?
So I mean, there's social housing options that are available. One of the program for the suite, you can actually get a $40,000 loan to put in your secondary suite. I think 20% of it, or 20,000 of it, could be a grant, but you have to rent that unit out under market value for 5 years. So, I mean, this fourplex thing will be interesting to see. Obviously, creating supply is going to make it more affordable for everybody. I took economics up in UNBC. I didn't do well. If I knew that all I really needed to learn was supply and demand, and that's all I would be talking about for the rest of my life, I wouldn't have stressed out so much. But really, that's been the most basic breakdown so far, is that our supply is crazy low and our demand worldwide is super high.
What about leasing land?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of leased land around Kelowna and West Bank and whatnot. A lot of it's First Nations. It's usually much cheaper than a comparative product that wouldn't be lease. But people sometimes have stigmas about lease, and ultimately at the end of the day you don't own it. So, yeah. Right.
Justin, recently the fires in our neighborhood have put Kelowna on the world map as well. Has that had any impact at all on real estate, knee-jerk reactions?
Yeah. We look back at what happened in the fires in 2003, and we saw that there was about a 30-day window there where activity sort of died down a little bit, and then it took off and was actually surpassing the activity from prior to. It's a similar situation. We looked at sales stats and stuff from August. It was down quite a bit, like a lot. But we also realized, and through our office, we said that there were a lot of deals that would have completed or had subjects removed that didn't because of subject to insurance and different stuff. So those deals didn't die, they just got extended into September. So we'll probably see a higher count of houses closed in September. Obviously, we talked about the amount of money that's about to go back into the economy in Kelowna. So I mean, we have 100 plus houses that need replacing. So I mean, a lot of that insurance money as well that's going to come in to pay for those houses. That's not taxable money that's going into the economy. So I mean, if every house is going to get rebuilt for $700,000 or $800,000, and you got 100 houses that are going to, more, obviously, and you got 100,000 or 100 houses that are going to get rebuilt, that's a lot of money going to contractors, and that's going to siphon its way through the community as well. Yeah.
Sorry, I would like to know 3 other crazy situations that you walked into as a real estate agent.
Oh no.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah, lots of them are. Well, there was one lady, I always said she's the craziest lady that I've ever known that wasn't locked up. She probably doesn't have Facebook, so if we're broadcasting this on Facebook Live or whatever, but she had her property listed with someone previous. They wanted to do a price reduction. I lived in the building and was like, no, like, you're already underpriced. It's just that she went around and took pictures with her flip phone, and like no staging, no open houses, it's crazy. But anyways, I listed the property, did everything all nice for marketing. Within the first week, I got her multiple offers. We listed for $10,000 higher than she was listed at. I got her $5,000 over that, but they wanted her microwave, and she lost it. She's, oh, I've had that microwave for 35 years and all this stuff, and you're trying to screw me and all this, like, that's my microwave. You know, part of me was like, come on, lady, like, I just got you 15,000, like, more than what you were gonna be, and, you know, a microwave nowadays has gotta be $100. Like, I would just go buy one myself for you. She's moving to a brand new place. Anyways, it turned out her dad actually bought her that microwave a long time back, and he had passed, so it had a lot of sentimental value. So we didn't throw the microwave in, but the place she was moving into actually bumped the dates by 2 months. It was new construction. So I let her live in my condo for 2 months, and I moved into a girlfriend's place at the time. And the amount of noise complaints and stuff, this woman she was pretty cool, but all of her clothes were from like the 60s and 70s. She just spent no money ever on herself. Everything was paid off though, like she was living mortgage free. She had a Mustang that was bought and paid for. All of her clothes were like denim onesie jumpsuits, and her art on the wall was puzzles that were all done and glued together and whatnot. But yeah, when she stayed at my place, it had the big screen TV and the stereo and whatever. She was just cranking the tunes up till like 3 o'clock in the morning, having parties. So yeah, it was pretty fun. Other things, I mean, we worked with an autistic family one time where the kid we staged the whole house, and then if the kid was home, he would get obviously, you know, drawn to everything and start ripping apart plants and different stuff. And so we would show up about half an hour before every showing. There was a locked room. We would put all the staging stuff in the room. We would drag it all out, set up the whole house for staging, do the showing, then tear it all back down and stick it all back in the room and lock it up. So there's no lengths I wouldn't go. Yeah. I had a client pass away on possession day in the house. completed the day before, went to the lawyers, signed off all the documents, came home, had a beer to celebrate, and had a heart attack. So the buyers showed up the next morning to move in, and not included. But again, talking about rolling with things on possession day, and you know, thankfully nothing like that's happened since. So. Herb? Yeah.
Last night I tuned into YouTube. It had the 10 best places in Canada. Kelowna was 10. The other 9 were east of Kelowna, east of the Manitoba border.
Yeah. Was Prince George on there?
No.
It should be. Yeah, Catherine.
You talked about extra suites in single-family homes. Has the city changed the designation, the zoning related to that? Because I know where I live, the zoning up till now has been single-family, so I'm just curious.
This has all been done at the provincial government level, and without any real communication, I think, so far with the municipalities. So that's where the biggest challenge is going to be. It's great for David Eby to say fourplexes on every place and suites in every home, but obviously how the municipalities handle this, and you know, when you look at things like parking and different stuff, there's going to have to be some rules, and they're saying that it's based on a program that went in New Zealand and some other places, and trying to get clarification by looking at what they did in New Zealand and then comparing it to what we're going to be able to do. Because I mean, the quick action that they took about taking rental restrictions out, I mean, that happened on a Tuesday, and then by Thursday, boom, no more rental restrictions in any strata buildings, other than the 30-day minimum for short term. But that week I ran out with tons of investors, and we were writing offers on 2-bedroom condos in 35-year-old buildings that were cheap, that previously you couldn't rent them, and now all of a sudden you could probably get $2,200 for that unit. So.
Thank you.
Yes.